you have to look at the economics of writing, and for me, poetry was a good launching pad for my writing. But most people don't want to read poetry like they don't want to listen to jazz. It's just a very finite group of people who find that to be interesting. I really love the freedom that comes with writing. It certainly beats corporate life and having deadlines and having all the stress, bosses breathing down your neck. The freedom that comes from writing is something that is unparalleled.
This podcast is part of the Blueberry Network at blueberry.com. That's blueberry with no e's.com.
Right on America is brought to you
by a generous grant from the Built on Dreams Media Network,
as well as the Sims Media Foundation,
and from listeners like you.
Everyone ready? Music cue, EQ in, listen for roll cue.
Rolling on 6. On set.
Roll tape. Welcome to episode 18. I'm Adam Scull, your host for the Right on America podcast. Our website is rightonamerica.us, where you can listen or subscribe to the podcast, find other episodes, comment on this podcast, and find links and other information related to this conversation. Our email address is rightonamericagroup@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Mary McGrath is a freelance writer and photographer based in Los Angeles. Her interests in writing date back to junior high school when she began contributing to her school yearbook as a poet. Her first book of poetry, Trespassing Stoplights and Attitudes, was published through Mudbourne Press in Santa Barbara while she attended UCSB. Mary McGrath, welcome to the Right on America podcast.
Thank you very much, Adam. It's a pleasure to be here.
What drove you to be a writer?
When I was growing up, I was always a very verbal person. Got to junior high and high school, I started having some issues related to growing up that I think I needed to address. I began writing in my journal. From there, it spawned applying my writing toward the different high school and junior high annuals, so I started getting stuff published there. My interest in writing seemed to extend to more of the literary anthologies that were taking place in the high school and junior high. Took off from there.
Do you have a particular writing process?
It really depends on the type of writing that I'm doing. If it's poetry, it seems to just kind of vomit out of me. If it's more assignment driven, I usually have more of a structure, and I might block it out in terms of what do I need to cover, how do I need to reinforce that, and how do I need to sell a particular point.
What do you like most about being a writer?
I really love the freedom that comes with writing. It certainly beats corporate life and having deadlines and having all the stress and jobs of bosses breathing down your neck. The freedom that comes from writing is something that is unparalleled.
What do you like least about being a writer?
The business of writing is progressively getting more and more difficult. Any writer can attest to that these days. Business model for publishing has been changing. With the advent of the internet, you have more and more publications that are going online. Therefore, their freelance budgets have been curtailed or eliminated. That makes it even more difficult for freelancers to try and get published. The economics of publishing have become progressively more and more difficult in the last few years. I think people who are trying to get published often find it very, very difficult because economics are prohibitive in terms of them trying to get their stuff into print.
Where do you stand on self-publishing?
I don't know enough about self-publishing to really make a definitive statement about it. I think if I was at a point where I was going to be putting out another book, I would certainly look at self-publishing as an avenue to consider. Most people who are trying to get their books published are running into a lot of obstacles. Traditional publishing models, self-publishing is certainly a way to circumvent that.
How has your life prepared you for writing?
Something that I've always done from my teen years. While I was in corporate life, it wasn't something that I actively pursued. It was more of a sideline. Once I decided to get out of corporate life, it was then that I decided to really apply myself toward my freelance aspirations.
After you left corporate life and you got your first writing assignment, you're staring at the screen with a blank document form in front of you. How did you feel?
I felt elated, excited, and very, very scared. I was writing a travel piece for a newspaper in the San Fernando Valley. It was my first shot at travel writing. It was a piece on Barbados, and I was able to couple the text with photography and really bring the destination to life. It was really, really exciting.
You published a book of poetry in 1980, and now you're writing travel pieces. Was it a difficult switch?
You have to look at the economics of writing, and for me, poetry was a good launching pad for my writing because it enabled me to apply brevity to the written word, to really be concise in the way that I wanted to evoke a particular emotion or an event in my life. But most people don't want to read poetry like they don't want to listen to jazz. It's just a very finite group of people who find that to be interesting. As I got a little bit older, I thought, how could I make a little bit of money off of my writing? I'd like to make a lot of money off of my writing, but how can I at least start with making a little bit? You find the water level that seems to appeal to readers. Humor, certainly something that I enjoy doing as well.
You have recently started doing 60s nostalgia writing?
I was continuing with some of my travel writing, and I thought, gee, it would certainly be fun to try and expand upon this platform, get involved in other types of writing. Pretty much owe it to my brother Jack McGrath, who helped me discover that there was a new venue going on through the publishing arena through AOL. Because I grew up in Studio City, he suggested contacting the editor at the AOL patch to see if I wanted to do some writing about growing up in Studio City. I pitched the idea, and he said, let's go for it. I need somebody who has grown up in Studio City, and because of your lineage with the area and your age, I think you could be the spokesperson on growing up in Studio City through the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And it's just been a blast. I've had such a great time. Kind of an Irma Bombeck column. It couples a lot of crazy things that we've all done growing up. What dances did you do in high school, to gross things that you did as children, to riding bicycles down the hill, playing in the gully, tormenting your parents. I've had a great time. It's been going on for about 2.5 years. I'm continuing to enjoy it.
Your nostalgia writing, is it hard to go back mentally and emotionally to an age gone by?
I don't think long-term memory is hard for anybody of a certain age. I think when you can remember things that have taken place 20, 30, 40, or 50 years ago, for me, it's personally not that hard. Sometimes my twin sister, Teresa McGrath, will fill in some gaps for me. The type of bubble gum that we chew, candy. Don't forget the Coke bottles and Abba Zaba and Orange Crush. It was a very happy time in my life to go back to 9 and 10 because, you're not really responsible for anything. You go to the grammar school, you play, you come home, it starts all over again.
Does Patch pay for their stories?
They don't pay anymore. They did pay when they first launched. With their purchase of the Huffington Post, their freelance budgets have been curtailed. They've been pretty much eliminated.
You still write for the Patch?
I still do. It hasn't been quite as frequent because the economics aren't there anymore, but I still get a kick out of it.
Why are you writing for a website that doesn't pay you?
You have to look at the return on your investment. For me, it's a public forum to say what I want to say, and I use it as a marketing tool to try and gain the attention of other writers and other editors and prospective publishers. Consider it at this point in time more of a blog than anything.
Has your approach paid off?
To a certain degree, yes, it has. I'm still shopping for other venues for this type of writing. I haven't found anything yet. I'm fairly diligent. At least I think I'm getting the attention of my peers who seem to resonate with this type of writing.
Are you enjoying the experience of writing for new media?
I prefer the print media to the internet stuff. There's something that has been lost with the decline of print media. There's a certain tactile satisfaction that derives from actually holding something physical in my hand. The writing has declined because there's so much brevity in the internet. People don't have the attention spans that they used to. texting, even words have been obliterated to abbreviations. I'm really kind of concerned about the future of the written form. It just seems like it's continually being diluted. I'm saddened by it. A lot of people, though, who use their iPads for information, myself included at times, just want top-line information.
How does writing poetry compare to the world of writing for new media?
With other types of writing, you can really draw it out. You can really create a scene or a story or weave your writer into the story, whereas with poetry, I think you have to just make each word very, very valuable. Poetry is like espresso, and regular writing is like coffee or decaf. It's not nearly as condensed. I think with poetry, you really have to make each word count.
Do you miss writing your poetry?
I do. In fact, I have been looking at some old anthologies that I was published in back when I went to school at UCSB, and it's been very illuminating reading some of the poetry that I used to write when I was younger, and to go, gee, that's not too bad, or it's obviously not too bad because somebody decided to publish it. I try and do it in my other types of writing as well, but it's punctuated throughout the piece rather than it being the essence of the piece.
What is the best advice anybody ever gave you?
You really have to be tenacious, resilient. You really can't take things too personally. I think every writer that I know, regardless of how many clips they have, has been rejected a multitude of times. Writing nowadays demands a certain expertise in marketing. No longer can you rely on publishers to get your piece published and marketed to your readers. Most of the editors I deal with now want to know that you have a pretty good following, that you are going to spread the word through social media, get those clicks and those page views. If you don't have that going on, you better learn how to do it. Because I spent many years in sales, that's not a difficult thing for me to do. You've got to be your own marketing department. You almost have to become a one-person publishing band. You've got to do the writing, you've got to do the editing, you've got to do the marketing, and you've got to be good at all of them.
How does it make you feel to be chief cook and bottle washer of your own stories?
It's not difficult for me. I kind of miss the days when all you had to do is just write and then it goes out into the great beyond. It appears in a lovely magazine or it's in a great newspaper and you're done. In order to continue to get assignments, I think the editors are looking for the rub-off of your piece. How many clicks did you get it? You know, is it picked up by Reddit or is it on Facebook or where is it in the whole stream of things?
Did you adapt well to the new world of social media?
Yeah, I don't think I'm as versed as some people are, but continuing to learn, and I'm always open to understanding new ways of marketing myself and the importance of doing so.
What advice would you give to authors just entering the field?
Make sure that you have some sort of a financial cushion so that you don't get discouraged too quickly, because depending on the type of writing that you get into, probability of making money is very remote. If you can find a type of writing that resonates with you, that pays well, that's wonderful. Leaving the personal types of stuff as more of a hobby. For those who are entering, you really need to decide that if this is for you or not, because it's riddled with a lot of challenges. Like any artistic profession, whether you're a musician or you're a visual artist, there are a multitude of people that are out there that are equally, if not more talented than you are, who haven't even been published at all. If you accept those odds and you decide to take the challenge anyway, that makes you even better to making it as a writer.
How about an excerpt from one of your articles?
This is a piece on going ghost hunting at the Riverside Mission Inn. This piece was not an assigned piece. Totally came up random. I found out that the hotel is rumored to be haunted. I wasn't looking for ghosts, but I found them. Going ghost hunting, exploring the catacombs beneath the Mission Inn. At the time, our visit seemed like a good idea. The hotel was built in the late 1800s, and there are rumors that the original owners of the inn still haunt the building. It was also gorgeous and charming. The rooms boast domed ceilings and stained glass, and the Mission Inn restaurant's patio makes you feel as if you are vacationing in Spain. My partner was dying to stay there, so despite some reservations, I consented to the stay. When we walked into our room, I immediately got that creepy feeling. It wasn't something tangible, just a thick eeriness that we both agreed shouldn't be there. I parked the thought and grabbed my camera to take a tour of the premises. I roamed the halls in an attempt to shake off the chills